welcome to the latest episode of Two Mums Talking After Road Death. This week, we're talking to Karen McGregor, who I know, or who I knew originally through my work at Times Higher. She used to write lots of features for me as a features editor. But she was Karen at that time. You were working abroad, so you didn't come into the office very often. I think you came in, once, when I was at Times Higher, and I saw you in person, but I hadn't seen you much in person in the interim. And then I have worked with you since, but when Anisha died, you were one of the people that sort of reached out and sent me an email, describing your own, what happened to you and to your family as well. And I found that really, really supportive, and it really helped me. And I just want to say thank you for that, to start with.
Pleasure too, but it was, yeah.
Yeah. And so today we wanted to talk about what happened with you and the support that you had, but also to talk specifically about work and how work might or might not have helped you, and how sort of reaching out to other people helps as well. So first of all, I wanted to start with just asking you to just say a little bit about what happened in your circumstances and to your daughter.
Sure, okay. It was the 11th of July 1996, a long time ago, and we were driving as a family to a tiny town called Ugu in the Eastern Cape of South Africa, where William was going to run a marathon. My husband, William Sanderson Meyer. So we set off, and partway there, a guy in like a Volkswagen, a big combi type vehicle, veered across the road in front of us and hit us at speed. There was no way to avoid what was happening, and it was very important for me that I was not the guilty party in that sense. So that's what happened. Donna was killed instantly. William was brutally injured. He was in an induced coma for more than 6 weeks and nearly died, all of that time. And so the process of the post-accident process involved both grieving for Donna and also looking after William. I mean, William didn't even know what had happened until 6 weeks later.
Oh, gosh.
And so you did you know straight away, or were you must also have been injured?
I was quite badly injured. I had to get cut out with the jaws of life. Our other daughter, Amy, was also in the back of the car with Donna. She was slightly injured, but not so badly. She had a collarbone injury, but that was it. I had other injuries and broken foot and knee on different legs and things like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is right?
Yes. So were you in hospital as well for a while, or?
Yes,
yeah.
I was in for about a week. There was some operations, but and I was also I wasn't in the ICU, but I was mostly in the ICU with William. And then I was discharged, but in a wheelchair and stuff like that. And then I really had to rely on friends to take me to the hospital every single day. And we had been on our way to the Eastern Cape, but we had a holiday home in a small village called Trafalgar, which was not far from the accident site. And so when William was in hospital, I actually moved sort of permanently there, so that, it was a complete disruption of life in every way.
Yeah.
But primarily, of course, Donna, the loss of Donna, who died instantly.
Yeah.
So what do you do, Karen? What do you do for a living? What is your job?
I'm a journalist.
Journalist.
Same as Mandy. And I also specialize in higher education. And the publication that we both worked for before, I used to work for when I lived in the UK in the late 80s and into the 90s.
Yeah. So were you a freelance journalist, or how does it work with regards to you know, when something like this happens? I know with my work, I phoned up my HR straight away and told them what had happened, and then obviously there was a process that followed from there on. But what was your experience with the you know, when did you tell work, or did you have to? What was the process there?
I was working at the University of KwaZulu-Natal at the time. I was editing a current affairs magazine called Indicator South Africa, and William was also working. He was their head of marketing and communications at the university. So pretty much immediately, the university was told about both of us from you know, from friends, and then. I mean, William obviously was in a coma. I mean, the one thing regarding the workplace was how important it was that he had, say, champions or supporters in the university that, who stopped things like his medical aid being cut off. You know, he was really struggling to stay alive, and the medical aid had said to us, no. You know, we've reached the limit now, and they were cutting it off, and you've had to go to a hospital, transfer to a local hospital that was appallingly bad. And so, I mean, that was one aspect of the workplace, that the university did fight his case for continued medical aid, which was massive. For me, I after a few weeks, I started editing the publication again, but remotely, because we couldn't move back anywhere near where we both had worked.
So did your work, they gave you the flexibility to do,
They did.
not because it wouldn't just be, I guess, not just the remote sort of thing, but also being able to flex around, you know, visiting the hospital and all of that kind of thing.
Yes, it was the very, very early days of the internet and email. I mean, it was really about, I think we got the internet in about 1995 or something. And yes, it was, so it became possible even at that early stage. But it was, my working was much reduced. I couldn't, for quite a while. I mean, I was able to engage with the workplace after about 2 weeks, but I was back and forth to the hospital. I was in a complete mess. And I mean, my working capacity was highly limited. So in fact, a friend of mine, another journalist, but we weren't working, we used to work together. She kind of stood in for me on certain aspects of my work. And William has a column, and he also, you know, he had to stop the column for 2 months. But the work, the university was supportive. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And what about other support? Did you have other support, family, friends that were helping you? I mean, because, you know, when you another aspect of the work sort of situation as well is having the support around outside of the work thing, but and the work can be I found quite helpful in a way, because you just go into automatic, but at the same time you're exhausted. Constantly, like the waves and waves of everything that you've been through, all the trauma, as well as, you know, dealing with the grief, but you've got the trauma on top of that, which is very exhausting. So did you have like counseling? Did you have friends and family that could support you?
We were quite far from home, so immediately my mother came within a day or two. She lived with us in Durban, and she came and she, you know, made meals and things like that, because I was in a wheelchair. And I had friends who came and would take me to and fro the hospital. We had friends who would come and spend time with me, and then later, because we stayed there for 6 months, even after William came out, we just didn't feel the capacity to move back into life. So we were very lucky to have a good circle of friends. The friends suggested many things, and we tried a psychologist, but it didn't work with her. You know, it is also a kind of personality issue. But then we tried a university psychiatrist who was extremely, a guy called Dr. Lasich, who was incredibly helpful. That was really very helpful to us, because he sat us down and gave us a list of behaviors to expect, what to try and do, about overwhelming grief, the kind of negative things, behavioral things that we might expect, like, drinking too much, or, there were a variety. So that counseling was very good. It was one session. Journalists, we took notes and we followed that. We kind of when we were in trouble, we went back and said, okay, this is what he said about this. And so we found that extremely helpful. I think for me, sorry,
did he cover things like the triggers and those panic sort of feelings that you get, and which you cannot control, of things that that you don't know that are going to cause those kind of panic feelings.
Things that are going to come into your mind that you would never have thought before. And things like what I had was, even when the phone rang, I almost went into a panic, because I kind of thought, what do I do? Do I answer it? Who's it going to be? What are they going to want? And then it was things like that sounds amazing, because it's almost like that counsellor wrapped up what a lot of counsellors do within about 10 sessions. They'd almost wrapped it up in one. That sounds so amazing, to be able to pop back and listen to it as well.
I think it depends on what kind of what support you're looking for, because I think William and I are both quite practical people, and we wanted the information, as opposed to more psychological support. I think we needed to know what the coping mechanisms was, and he responded by giving us what we were asking for, essentially. And for us it was extremely helpful. I used to have times when the phone would go, of course, a lot, and that was one of the reasons, Mandy, I reached out for you, to you, but afterwards, after all the fuss had sort of died down, and the funeral happens, and then people get on with their lives, and you just sat there thinking, now, what am I going to do? What now? How do I cope? So I think, the counseling was really useful. I used to find it very difficult when people phoned, because, you're expected to talk about the very thing that you are trying to cope with. So at one time, it's very comforting to know that people are worrying about you and wanting to express their, sympathy and support. At the same time, it's like every time the phone rings, you've got to go through it again.
Yes.
So I found that extremely difficult, actually, and I was pleased when that stage stopped. And I think because William was, himself in such a state, he was in hospital, I was pretty much on my own with that kind of thing. I mean, people didn't want to speak to my mom or to Amy, our daughter, or anything. They wanted to speak to William or I suppose. And that was actually quite a strain. So what do you do about that? I don't know.
Yes. Although we had a different sort of situation because it was COVID. So we had, so Anisha died in February 2020. And so there was, and in fact, her funeral was the week before the lockdown. And people did come around and they did ring at the beginning. And then everything changed with COVID, and everybody just focused on their own. I mean, there was so much else going on, and you just didn't see people, and like people had brought around food and like all of that kind of stuff, in the first few weeks, which I found quite comforting isn't the word. I don't know what the word is anyway, but it was nice to have people looking after us, because I just didn't feel I could look after myself at all.
Well, it's not having to think is the main thing, because your brain is just all over the place. Your mind is just not, it's not focusing on anything, is it?
No,
Yeah.
yeah.
But then also that whole thing of like when they ask you how are you and all that, and you don't know whether to say how you really feel or just say I'm fine, just I just want to talk about something else. It's very tricky. It's tricky for us, and it's very tricky for them to know what the right thing is to say. I don't know how we bridge that, but I guess talking about it is one way somehow of, you know not everybody is going to respond in the same way as you said, not everybody, you know some people do want to talk a lot about it all the time, and other people just want to just get on and focus on something else, and just eventually it will come. But
So Karen, did you find your work colleagues? Because the thing is, with work, we spend so much time at work, and obviously, I don't know, I guess at the time you weren't working from home, but did you find your work colleagues were a bit more supportive than some of your family and friends, because you were seeing them a bit more, especially in the aftermath of once your husband had come out of his coma, and you'd had the funeral and stuff like that?
Yes, actually, I think at the end of the day, it was work colleagues. Although I must say it was mostly former work colleagues, because I'd only been in that job for a few years, and I had really good friendships with other journalists. And I have to say, I didn't stay in that job for a very long time after that, because it was difficult. It was still early internet. It was difficult to actually do the job properly in 6 months, and I felt I was holding things back. So I resigned, and they were very decent. There was no pressure on me. It was my decision, but I had also decided that I wanted to go to university. I just felt I wanted to just have time, I think, to think through everything that had happened. And I had an opportunity to go and do a master's at the University of Kent in Canterbury. And I jumped at it because I'd wanted to study international relations for some time. And so I decided so in a way, the workplace became the studying. And there it was strange, because I found support in the place, and I've mentioned this to you before, Mandy. I didn't have much in the way of support. I wasn't even close to home, but I was kind of able to spend time thinking. And being around young people, Donna's age, Donna was 18 when she died. She was a first-year student of architecture. In fact, so your daughter was the same. And another colleague of ours called Patricia Leon also worked at the Times. I also lost a daughter at the similar age, young. But anyway, for me, I went to university, and it gave me time to think. But where I found comfort was in being a student with 18-year-olds, even though I was, 20 years older than them, 25 years older than them. I found comfort in them, and comfort in the lecturers, because they were telling me, they were imparting understandings to me that I would have never thought I could apply to this stage of my grief and my life. But actually, I found a lot of comfort in it. And so I think that the message for me was that actually, people maybe should look at different options in terms of what they do afterwards. And, there are many things to be said. There's that you carry on, you plunge back into work. I do find work very engaging. I love it. And so that was good for me as well. But I also think that really worked, because if you work hard, you never get time to think. So then you just get hit by things. When you've got a moment, things hit you. But having actually time to think was extraordinary, helpful.
Yeah.
And being with young people, a little bit like you were saying, Mandy, with, finding comfort in Aisha's friends,
Yes. No, that I found
that, haven't we? Because I do the same for our son Jack. He was 19, and he was just about to start his university career, So so that's been a little bit difficult because his friends that were starting university at the same time are all graduating this year, including my nephew. So so that's kind of like another challenge. So although I love being around them, because it almost feels that Jack's with us, because
Yes.
because of the age and I think that energy, it just reminds me of, you know, who Jack was and how he was. And so that gives me some kind of comfort having them with us. But it's hard knowing that they're all graduating this year, and yeah, so that's like another layer to navigate, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I know you've both now, it's both much more recent for you. I say it, you know, it does get easier with time, but it never goes away. You know?
No. And that what you said about the time to think. I mean, although I was working quite hard quite soon afterwards because it was COVID and there wasn't anybody else to do the job that I was doing at the time, the working mum's job. And in a way, as I said, it was kind of like automatic. It was going into automatic. I did every day read books that were about, sounds very morbid, like about death, basically, but all different aspects. And I found that was really important for me. But as you said, Karen, it's what helps you, and each individual will be different in that. But I still do that. I still read these books because, you know, I want to hear how other people have, you know, have coped with it and what the thoughts but all sorts of different things from sort of science, and you know, all sorts of different things I've read, and philosophy, and all of that kind of thing. But it's been very
searching for understanding,
yeah,
searching for meaning, or finding, you know, that there's something other than meaning. I think that I think people do different things, but I think it is so valuable to hear what others have to say, as you're doing by reading, and to engage with what's happened in an emotional and intellectual way, however, you know, it is possible, because to ignore what's happened, I think, is I don't know how you could ever really, you know, move beyond, or at least have a life that is tolerable, without doing something.
I just remember when just before Jack's collision, I had watched the documentary on the Hillsborough disaster, and just reading about the mum and what she had gone through, and it was really interesting hearing about her daughter, and what her daughter had said, and said, you know, she understood the plight that her mum was under, that this was her life's work, that she wanted to get a conviction, but she kind of like felt that she was a little bit in the background, and it was just so strange, because then when I'm catapulted forward, and this has happened to us as a family, I think that was the one thing that stuck in my mind, that I thought, I can't let this define me. I can't let this define us as a family, because we've got our daughter Nadia, who's 3 years younger than Jack, and I was straight away, I needed to make sure that her life matters.
Yes, because the same thing with my neighbor said something like, "Oh, your poor other children," you know, almost words to the effect of their life is over. And I was like, I'm not letting that happen.
No.
Yeah.
And in fact, it is, you know, it is so difficult. Also, these are young people. Our Amy was, you know, was 16 and just coming to the end of school, and she, you know, I mean, she seemed okay, but actually she wasn't. And you know, she was one step removed, because, you know, she's William's first, you know, a child before William and I got together. And luckily her mom is a psychologist, so she was able to, you know, to help Amy. But there was a definite feeling where that actually none of us, including her mom, really had, or her other mom, really had as much of an idea how absolutely disturbed Amy was, because she was also trying to support us, you know.
Yes.
And yet, but she was too young to really process, or you know, or to ask for help when she saw what we were going through. So it is difficult, I think, for, you know, friends and siblings.
Yes, definitely.
We've spoken in great depth about that, haven't we, Mandy? About, you know, what the children must think, because they don't talk, or they don't talk to us. We found out that Nadia was talking to friends, and she was talking to her boyfriend. I think because she was only 17 at the time. But so that gave me some comfort, that so at least she was talking. But like you say, Karen, they go into almost protective mode. They were looking out for us, and they didn't want to get upset.
It's the same as us, that what we're doing. We're looking out for them, but everybody's panicking about everybody else going out because we think something's going to happen to them. And, you know, they're going through all of the same things in different ways because they're all different people. And yeah, that's what I find. But yeah, well, thank you so much, Karen. It's been really good to talk to you, and thank you for sparing the time to talk to us on this episode.
Yes, thanks for sharing, Karen. It's really such a positive, and I'm hoping that it goes out to help a lot of people that listen.
Yeah, because I think that's so important in, you know, when, you know, this whole kind of changing, I don't know, the way that society, or, you know, people at work, people in society generally, sort of, that we can talk about these things, because it can be very lonely. It can feel very isolated. I don't know if you feel that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's interesting, you know, where you find your help. We found our help through the justice system, but Mandy, I don't think you did, you know. But yeah, no, it's an absolute, you know, thank you very much for inviting me to share my experience, and I hope it was somewhat remotely, you know, helpful to someone else.
Really helpful.
And also,
I think it will
you
be.
guys going forward, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.